First, we have Kate Celeste, Event Service Manager at Delta Hotels by Marriott, Chesapeake, Norfolk. Kate Celeste is a graduate of Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. She began her career in events and hospitality at an All About Presentation, a Richmond-based event production company. Currently, Kate resides in Norfolk, Virginia, and works as the Event Services and Catering Sales Manager at the Delta Hotels by Marriott, Chesapeake, Norfolk. Next, we have Lee Dickinson, President of Advanced Visual Production. Lee is the owner and technical director of Advanced Visual Production, an audiovisual company which manages the technology behind special events. In addition to their work on in-person events, they have supplied webcasting services to help their customers reach audiences around the country and around the world. Followed by Mark Dunlap, Director of Sales at Expo Incorp. Mark Dunlap is the Director of Sales and Strategic Partnerships, Expo Incorp, based in Chicago. Mark currently leads sales and strategic partnerships for Expo, supporting hundreds of customers in a range of industries, including nonprofits, government, education, and corporate. Prior to Expo, Mark has an extensive background that includes multiple startups to Fortune 500 organizations focused primarily on technology and e-commerce. Stacy Freed, Events Coordinator at ChemTreat. Stacy Freed has 13 years of event and hospitality experience. She started in weddings and social events in the country club industry, and for the past 6 years, she has been the event coordinator at ChemTreat, an industrial water treatment company. Stacy's role is to promote, plan, and execute conferences, meetings, trade shows, and customer appreciation events. Tamara Wilkins Harris, Manager of Events and Sponsorships at Richmond Region Tourism. As the face of Richmond Region Tourism's wildly popular I Am a Tourism Ambassador Training Workshop and Partnership Program, she strengthens tourism's place in the community by strategically developing mutually beneficial partnerships and by creating, managing, and executing Richmond Region Tourism's signature events. She also manages Richmond Region Tourism Foundation events and sponsorship. She serves as a voice of the travel and tourism industry in the Richmond region, demonstrating its relevance and value to the community. Andrea Lyons, CEO of All About Presentation. Andrea Lyons is the CEO and executive producer at All About Presentation, an international woman and minority-owned live and virtual event strategy and management company. Since 2007, All About Presentation has produced over 1,000 events and managed the event experience for over 250,000 events attendees, with clients that represent a variety of industries from banking to government and crisscross the globe from Rhode Island to South Korea. In short, Andrea and her team of elite planners are tasked with coming up with solutions for the toughest and most complex event challenges. And last, but certainly not least, Beverly Vantal, Program Manager of Virginia Women's Veterans Program at Virginia Department of Veterans Services. Miss Beverly Vantal served as an Army Medical Service Corps MSc officer for 14 years. Her final military assignment brought her to her new home at Fort Lee, Virginia. Miss Vantal has adopted her life mission to advocate for veterans like herself after her military service ended in 2014. Beverly assumed the new position of Virginia Women Veterans Program Manager in fall 2018 to provide full-time support to Virginia's women veterans and their unique and diverse needs at the state level. Each member of the roundtable brings their own skills and expertise. We do these roundtable discussions to create a safe space for people to ask questions. And now I'm going to turn it over to our roundtable discussion host, Andrea Lyons, to kick things off.
Thank you so much, Kat. As Kat said, I am your host and I'm surrounded by my super friends in the industry. And I just want to say thank you all so much for being here. You know, I love these roundtable sessions because it gives us an opportunity to get together and workshop solutions for what I would consider some of the toughest challenges that are facing our industry. In today's roundtable, though, we have three main topics of discussion. First, we're going to talk about virtual events. And then we're also going to include hybrid events. That's the second thing. And a hybrid event, by the way, is when we do get back to meeting physically in person, there is going to be still a virtual component to that. And we'll talk more about that. And we call that a hybrid. And then we'll just talk about general tech stuff. So the way it works, well, the way a roundtable works is we're just going to throw out a topic for discussion. It's like throwing it out on the table. people get to comment on it. We'll comment on it. We'll provide best practices, or we'll share what we know other people might be doing to address whatever the topic is. And then we throw out another topic. So it's really fast paced. So grab a pen, grab a pencil, get your notes ready, because we're going to be throwing out gems. These, every time I've done them, they've been so much better than we could have ever hoped or planned. And they are super, super, super helpful. And I hope that it's helpful to you too. So to get things started, I'm going to kick it off to Stacy, and she can throw out our first discussion.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I want to talk about virtual events, particularly audience engagement. I want to ask the group, engagement's already a challenge when you're even in physical face-to-face meetings, and companies they have to get creative. How do we increase engagement? So how does this change in virtual events? How do we maximize audience engagement through the virtual world?
Ooh, I'll start. I want to start. I want to go first. So, this is something that we've been experimenting with heavily, certainly over the last several months. But I think everybody kind of has the same challenge too, is how do you keep people engaged in a world where, anytime you have screen time, that's the big thing right now, right? It's all screen time. And so how do you keep somebody engaged for an hour, which you can do in a physical event? But boy, is it ever hard in front of a screen, because the average episode is either 21 minutes or 42 minutes, and that's it. So it can be tough. So we've developed, or we kind of have 5 kind of go-to strategies that we do at All About Presentation. First, we do a lot of breaks. In general, like if you're an in-person event, you may go 90 minutes or 2 hours, and then you have a break, and then you go back to session. 90 minutes is just too long. So we have a lot of breaks. We do music breaks. So we'll do incorporate music wherever possible, which, side note, you do need a license to play music on a broadcast. Just FYI, we use Music Bed. I'll put the link in the notes. But it is fun to see people rocking out to music while you're kind of doing a little break and then coming back. We do games as breaks to keep people engaged. So we'll do trivia, we do bingo, we do polls. There's one planner I know, she does karaoke as an engagement form, which I think is kind of fun sounding. And that keeps people engaged. And also giving out prizes is still important. So we would do that like in person, we would do, like we all know we would do, if you do a poll or a game, it's like, we have prizes. Don't get rid of the prizes, keep the prizes. People, the mail still works. We can just mail it to people, get it to people. Another thing is, along with games, or contests. So like if you're doing Zoom, you could do a best virtual background contest. You could do a cutest pet contest. You could do a costume contest. You could do a best lunch salad contest, like everybody show their lunch salad. So you can make anything a contest, which is one way to keep people engaged. But one of the biggest things that has worked for us every time is we spread the love. So whether it's hearing people with different voices, different faces, if there's like a 2-hour meeting that you have to do, that's a lot for 1 or 2 people in a virtual environment. In a physical environment, yeah, like they could do it. But virtually, that should be like 4 to 6 people participating in that engagement. You might want to have an opener. You'll have a speaker, and then you'll have someone who leads Q&A. You'll have someone who manages a game. You may have an MC for an event, and then you want an alternate MC for an event. So you want to have multiple people. One, because MCing a virtual event is way more tiring, because you kind of got to just be with it for a long time in one spot in your seat. So we found that you need like a lot of MCs. You need a lot of event people, and to switch it up a little bit. And it makes it more interesting for the audience. So that's just one of the things that, or some of the things that have worked in terms of audience engagement. So that's just my thought. I don't know. Does anybody else have any
Yeah, I
thoughts
do.
on it?
So, I mean, the reality is that people spend almost all of their time on their screens anyway. So we're not asking them to do something that they aren't doing all day anyway. We're just asking for their attention for that time span. And to a certain extent, as Andrea said, you have to be prepared for their attention to wander. So mixing it up with breaks, mixing it up with games. And those games can be hosted on the screen. They can be like online games where you have an app that's a companion app that goes along with your event and you can play there. But also mixing up the actual content that's on the screen. So integrating things like social media and chat windows there into your event portal so that as people's just sort of nature to wander away from one window, you're still sort of giving them some other things to do within their own mindset to keep them inside of your event. The other thing is trying to engage them. I always give the example of like the nightly news, right? The nightly news, we watch one person sit behind a desk and we watch it for an hour, but they visually make it more interesting. They roll in videos every once in a while. They have multiple camera angles that they use just to mix it up visually, and people are used to seeing that. So if you're asking someone to sit and watch something on a screen for an hour, somehow the impact of what you're delivering to them probably needs to be stepped up a little bit. So video playback, graphic, Andrea mentioned music, even cutaways like house bands. So like think about a night show. If you have a little house band who's appearing remotely and playing music during breaks, stuff like that can be a whole lot of fun, engage people, and give them something that they're sort of used to when they're already watching the screen for an hour at a time.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in if that's okay, Andrea, because this is a conversation I'm having with clients. What feels like 50 a day. I think, you know, to start, Andrea was dead on. I think the creativity is just unlimited, and I agree with, you know, with both of you in terms of you've got to keep people's attention, and everybody's looking for that, right? And I think it just comes down to creativity. A couple things that jump at me that I love about virtual now that we're really immersed in this, you know, from an event technology perspective, there's no timetable here, right? So with a physical event, you have a 2-day event or a 3-day event. A virtual event doesn't necessarily need to be confined in that. What I think is really interesting to me is, you know, I had a client tell me the other day they're thinking about taking their 2 or 3-day event and making it a 5-day event and breaking it up into really smaller chunks each day, and they can participate, you know, in smaller portions each day instead of sitting through something, you know, that's an entire day. So I thought that was a brilliant idea. To play on your idea of the house band is another area that I think you can get super creative with. Think about it. If you were able to get somebody that was somewhat famous or, you know, somewhat you know, recognizable to attract them to your event, you're going to maybe, that might bring them to your event. And then if you tailored the end of the event to be some sort of a, you know, a stand-up comedian act or a, you know, some sort of a band, or like you said, somebody that, you know, is going to be willing to stay for, I think that those are all great ideas. And so I think, you know, just shortening things up, keeping the attention span, and really from our perspective, where we're focused is the environment that virtual experience lives in. That's where we're really trying to deliver, instead of just a Zoom meeting like this, which is fine for 6 to 10 people.
So Mark, I got an email from a talent booking agency the other day because we have a whole country full of entertainers who aren't on the road right now. And one of the things this talent agency is now offering is drop-ins of their celebrities into your virtual meeting. So you can hire big names to drop in for 10 or 20 minutes. There's also a farm out there that will let a goat come join your meeting. So there are lots of little things that you can mix in just to sort of keep people's attention.
It's a really good idea. And you know, and again, I think if we talk in 6 months or a year, I think the other thing I would point you to is just to watch what other people are doing, because I think you're going to see tons of innovation and tons of creativity happening, because we're all on the same boat, you know, trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I just want to give Andrea and her team a plug in terms of they really helped us kind of conceptualize this audience engagement. We hosted 2 events actually, and the polling features that happened during the virtual event space was super awesome for us, and being able to give things away. Also, I would think for what I saw as far as engagement, the chat rooms are also great ways to also get further engagement from the attendees that you can pop out as a part of the conversation of an event, as far as if you're doing a webinar or a meeting. So shout out to Andrea and her team, because yeah, you guys were super helpful in helping us understand this virtual landscape, because as far as the Richmond Region Tourism Office, we've never done a virtual meeting before. And so it's been really cool. And I want to take notes right now, because everything you guys have just said, I would love to incorporate as we move forward with our virtual events.
Yeah. All right, Stacey, I'm going back to you. I'm going to keep going forward. Event people, they get to talking and it's
Sorry.
like
It's easy to do. Yeah, so I just really wanted to, as a follow-up to what we were just talking about, how do we make it attractive to people who aren't really digital users to begin with?
I have two quick thoughts about that. One is making it as easy for them to access as possible. For some of our projects, something like a Zoom meeting, something like that is great, but there are users who are turned off by having to install a plugin and type in a meeting code and sort out their webcam and mute and unmute their audio and stuff like that. You can deliver it in other platforms that are simply broadcast platforms, just like you were going to go to YouTube and watch a video or watch a homepage video on someone's website. Deliver it right there on the homepage, or, as I suspect Mark is going to hint at, in a virtual environment that is wrapped in an entire event. So.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking to a client the other day, and they said, "How would you describe it?" And we've been kind of calling it a hub or a virtual place to house your Zoom meeting, basically. So an environment. But we kind of came up with another way to describe it. When you have a physical event, you go out and you find a venue, right? And then the venue sometimes is what attracts people to come to that event. And so we've kind of started to look at this as virtual venues. So to Lee's point, I think you do have to make it super easy to get into the event. But then once they're in, the event really can take shape by having a platform. I mean, that's where we're focused, trying to give people a really great environment. So for example, if you're in a session, being able to view that session, but also your documents are there, your notes, clicking the speaker profile, all kind of housed in a really great environment. I think that's going to make a big difference. Whatever platform you choose to use, having something that's more than just a Zoom meeting.
And to continue to make it both engaging to people and attractive to people, and to sort of help with the question earlier about holding their attention, not all of your sessions have to be live the way they are in a venue. I'm sure plenty of us have taken online training and stuff like that, which is great because you can pause it, go get your coffee, run an errand, come back, continue the online training later. So if you make certain portions of your event on demand, then people are able to access them as is convenient to them. So if their attention wanders, they just come back later. There's lots of important reasons why you want to be live and interactive with audiences for things like your general sessions and such, but for training, breakouts, lots of other little elements, those can be on demand and give the user the freedom to interact with them as they see fit.
I like that. For just kind of going back to Stacey's question, the as you see fit part, that's the part. My mother is 72 years old. Now, she is not super tech savvy, but she will give it a shot. But what she needs is time, right? So it's like, it's a process. She'll say, now, what do I hit I do this to do what now? So for her, she can go back and watch those things, or if she could do it at her own time, it helps her a lot. So she doesn't feel the pressure of not being savvy, because it makes her nervous, right? So it's not like she won't get it. She'll get it, but it just takes her a little longer than people who are on a computer every day doing stuff. So I love that what you guys have added.
Well, and I think too, we're getting a lot of experience really fast. I'm watching kindergarten virtual schooling go on, and from day one to today, they're massively better. So, I think people are getting a crash course in how to do this stuff.
Yep. That's great. That's great, y'all. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Bev and ask her to fan the flames of this conversation. Bev, what do you have?
So, hey everyone, I am totally out of the zone of the event planning and all you gurus here. But one of the critical parts of what I do is outreach and, getting information to our veteran population, our women veterans. So, and sometimes it seems like you have to be an IT person to understand all of this. So I just have a couple basic questions for the group so that I can be better educated and really be able to stay connected in this new virtual world. So my question is, which is better for a virtual event, live or pre-recorded, when the budget is a major factor?
It can go back and forth, and it depends largely on how long your event is and what your expectation of quality. From a AV company, a video company, editing, shooting company perspective, if you have 12 hours of content to deliver, we're going to have your person in front of a camera for 12 hours, whether it's pre-recorded in the studio or whether it's live in an event. So from a budget standpoint, there's not a huge amount of difference. The pre-recorded stuff, there's going to be editing, exporting, all that kind of stuff to be done, whereas in the live side, there's some extra equipment like streaming systems, switching systems, and encoders. So the budget tends to sort of work out either way. That said, there are advantages to either. In a pre-production sort of scenario, you have the ability to do a second take. So if your CEO is delivering remarks and they weren't happy with their remarks, well, we can do it again. That's no problem. If you just can't get your people together all at once for a live event, then pre-recording it is a great way to do it. On the other hand, live gives you the opportunity to interact with your audience, be it on social media, via Q&A, via polls. It also maintains some of that sense of community that I think everyone is lacking right now. Of course, in the middle of those two things, you can always pre-record it and then air it live so that you are broadcasting a pre-recorded video, but still gathering the community to watch it all at once. That's been real popular among like the graduation crowd right now. If you do have a super budget conscientiousness that you have to deal with, there is always the possibility of producing some of your materials on your own, be it via Zoom or even cell phone videos can be okay if you do it real carefully. Deliver those to your production company to trim and add lower thirds and handle the broadcast for you. So that is an opportunity to save some money there. But generally speaking, I would say that the pre-recorded versus the live event are going to be fairly equivalent to each other in terms of cost.
Okay, that's some great points there. With that being said, how important is kind of like a virtual background space as it relates to kind of studio versus green screen, which is more, kind of staying with the cost effectiveness?
Well, a green screen can be done anywhere, which is definitely a bonus. That said, green screen tends to look like the weatherman standing in front of a green screen. There are some fun tricks you can do in terms of like shadows and reflections that you can incorporate into really a virtual set kind of environment. I would say that requirement scales with your audience expectations. So if they were used to coming to a big gala event where you had custom staging and table centerpieces and all that kind of stuff, building out some kind of custom set in a studio continues that sort of same feeling that they had before. Doing it in a green screen is sort of in the middle there, and then of course at the bottom of it is what we're doing now, which is just sitting, at home on a Zoom with either a virtual background or something else. So it just sort of scales based on your audience expectation and on your expectation of what you want your event to look like. In a studio is going to be the most expensive option, a green screen a little less expensive, and doing it at home obviously the cheapest.
Yeah, and I'll just jump on that a little bit because I'm listening to these conversations that we're having. That's the biggest concern that people have. They've also gotten a taste of some of these events that have taken place over the last couple of weeks, and let's be honest, it's rough. I mean, some of those have been pretty poor, and I think it's scaring a lot of clients that like you that don't have a lot of experience here. Most people don't. So I think being prepared and just really either hiring somebody like Andrea to be, professionally help put this all together and tie in people like Lee, or be really prepared and there's a lot of preparation that needs to happen in order to make something even as simple as what we're doing today go off and look like it's professionally or put together properly.
Thank you so much, Mark. And you just reminded me of something that I wanted to kind of pitch back to Andrea. You mentioned earlier about chat room moderators, and I'm just wondering, how many do you need for like a multi-session event?
Ooh, good question. But I do know that Kate, she was going to say something. She's going to jump in right after Mark and right before Mark. So I'll go to you, Kate, and then I'll come back and answer your question, Bev.
Yes. Yeah. I think another way of looking at the space of it is, at a hotel, we have a variety of different options. So you can do something in an executive guest room that has a whole living room setup so it kind of seems more casual or comfortable, or you can build your large set that you were talking about in one of the grand ballrooms that still kind of gives that elaborate and ornate experience that people are used to, but not having to, kind of make it fit into a studio. and it also kind of gives that similar vibe. So I think looking at like a venue side of it is also very important, because it'll still kind of give that same experience while people are sitting at home in the comfort of their couches.
Yeah, there's a fear when people are going to produce a virtual event that they are going to be producing yet another people at home on their webcams. And by going back out to a venue, you can break that perception. So we don't want to imagine sitting in front of the webcam anymore. We want to imagine like a TED Talk or a keynote presentation that you're used to going to. We can still go to these venues with a small team, a tiny audience of just your speakers and their, one or two guests, produce something that looks like a broadcast quality event as opposed to, simply sitting at home and watching yet another Zoom meeting. So.
Yep. Good point, you guys. Good feedback. Now to go back to Beth's question about the chat moderation, I think that also goes to engagement a little bit, and I think it was brought up a little bit in there, which is typically kind of short answer, Bev. We say for every 25 people that we're anticipating, which by the way, also number one question, how many people can I expect at my virtual meeting? Because I've never done a virtual meeting before. Big math, right? So that's a whole different story for a different day on how to figure that out. But we would say normally for every 25 people you're expecting, if depending on the crowd and the audience makeup, we'd expect one person to be a chat host. Now, what does that mean? We call them chat moderators. They're also chat instigators. They're people that could either be an attendee. It doesn't have to be a professional person that does this. It's just people that make sure the conversation keeps going, right? So they'll say, hello there from Richmond. Oh, we're so happy to be here. Where's everybody from, right? So they're instigating the chat to keep people motivated into talking. And when you do have a lot of chat instigators, if you will, when you do have a lot of those folks, it's great. They end up having conversations with each other. But what you'll notice slowly is that people start to get a little less shy and they start to participate as well. So it's super important, I think, to have chat moderators or instigators for those sessions. And like I said, we just kind of we came up with a formula, 1 per 25 people. That's it. Real simple for us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bev. All right, now back to Stacy, I think, right?
Yeah, I have a question and it is a tagline to this. How do we take it from the ideas to the implementation? So we want gamification, we want coffee breaks, we want a live panel, things like that. How do we take it from those ideas and implement it? What's the technology and equipment that we need, and can that be worked around different budgets?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question.
It is.
Well, I'll start. The first step is a planner. Even for someone like us who is a technological enabler who can give you all of those pieces and parts, until we know the flow of your event and what your expectations are going to be, it's very hard for us to pitch those things to you, because I can say, okay, we need this kind of camera and this kind of switching system and this sort of online platform and this sort of audience engagement tool, but if that doesn't meet the needs of your conference or event, we're just sort of talking about product catalog without going anywhere. So engage a planner. Be forthright about your budget, because as we've said several times, it scales based on the features and the expectations and the quality, but ultimately the budget is going to be the deciding factor. So share your budget with your team. Let them reconcile your budget versus your desires versus your needs versus your expectations. Weave all of that together for you and produce, the most appropriate package that brings all those needs together.
And I'll just add to what Lee said. The best thing about an experienced planner, they know the technologies that are out there. They've done the research. I know how much Andrea's team has done the research. It's based on your needs. They'll be able to point you in the right direction. That's the other thing. It's like exhausting to Google search event technology. So those folks have already done it, and they kind of have a platform in mind for your needs. I think that's probably the.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Tamara. Tamara, we haven't heard a lot from you today, so why don't you give us something to chew on?
I will do that. And I think it's a really big question specifically for us. At Richmond Region Tourism, we're a nonprofit organization, and we host maybe 4 to 5 events a year. And one of my biggest questions is coming up, actually. We just had to postpone our annual awards event. It's an outdoor event, and we are looking at how we want to charge a registration fee, but how can we incorporate live streaming so that those people who can't actually physically attend the meeting can participate, but then we don't want to cannibalize the registration fees that we would charge for the event. So that, and also we want people to physically attend. So the event's in August. So how do we work, and what technology can we utilize to help us try to combat both things, in person plus meet the virtual space need?
I got something, but I'll let somebody go first. Who wants to maybe add into that?
It's a good question.
It is a good question.
And so please help me.
So your registration fees can apply to both your in-person guests and your online guests. I would say it's up to you whether you want to offer the online people a discount because maybe they won't be consuming food and beverage and stuff. But if it's the same price either way, then there's no particular disincentive to sort of come to the event versus, I would say that with the caveat that certainly people, if they have health concerns, are going to want to stay home. So I think providing them either option is going to be really essential. But there is certainly no reason you can't charge a registration fee for an online event.
Yeah, and I would say just from conversations I've had with our customer base who are dealing with that same question, I think the majority, if I had to give you my opinion, the majority are leaning to what Lee said, which is it is the same price. And you can let them choose whether they feel comfortable doing it remotely or they come physically. But I think by doing that, then you eliminate that whole issue of cannibalizing the registration fees. You know, and then it goes back to get creative and, you know, tie in the entertainment and all the things that they can see at home, you know.
And there are some fun things you can do at home. Your caterer could work with you to deliver, you know, boxed dinners to your guests at home. Your programs and your giveaways and your swag that you might put on the table at your event can be part of that catering delivery that goes home to them. So it's not to say that there isn't a whole event that can take place at these remote sites that ties in, you know, almost line item by line item into what you would have done in person.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I was on an event last a week or two ago, and there was about 100 event planners on this webinar or this, you know, networking thing. And I thought it was a super cool idea. They took one of the sponsors did a custom wine glass, so a hand painted wine glass. They shipped it in advance of the event to everybody that was going to be on this 3-hour deal. And so there was, you know, they created a conversation. Everybody was at home. You know, they had their wine glass.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
And everyone can, you know, submit their at-home wine glass selfie to the social media wall. So there's ways to engage those people while they're there.
What were you going to say, Tamira?
So I know that we're talking about the physical event space, and I know we're in a state of also the unknown in terms of what that's going to look like, especially here in Virginia with the phases. But that's the other thing of it. We're so worried when you were talking about food and beverage and people touching things and sending things to people's homes. Like, we are in this space, like, do we or do we not? Because people are still, you know, honestly worried about their safety as they go out into the physical space landscape. So that's just another concern. And maybe we table that for another webinar, but certainly that's something we're thinking about on our end as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that with the food handling is with venues that do provide food or with catering companies, we are already at such high levels of food safety of how we handle the food. It's more how we serve the food that's really going to change, because kitchen staff is already going to be wearing gloves like they do any. So it's more of how we're going to present. So no longer allowing self-serve buffets and like that, where people can now have a prepackaged meal or a plated entree as opposed to a buffet, or the banquet team will serve the food.
Jump in just real quickly on that, just to give you another example of how organizers are looking at badges, name tags and badges at an event. So we have, so the majority of events, you know, will pre-print badges, right? So you have people touching them, and then it's, you know, go over here if you're A through D, and people are handing them to you, and so you have all this touching of the badge. We have a really cool, it's an awesome piece of our platform. It's an on-demand badge printing. So the way it works is, if you're registered for an event, you walk up to this kiosk, right? And you check in, you put in a couple letters of your name, it pulls up what looks like the badge, and you click print. It takes about 12 seconds for a pre-registered attendee to walk away with a badge. Andrea's seen it in my office, so it's really, really cool. However, now we have organizers over the last several weeks have been coming to us saying, hey, we love that whole walk back, get your badge really quickly type scenario, but can you make it touchless? And
Yes.
so we've re-engineered it, so what we've done is, okay, so you register, you get a confirmation email, it has a QR code on it. So now, as of August, you walk up to our kiosk, you're pre-registered, you'll just hold up that, use your phone or a printed out thing, and you hold up that QR code, badge prints off just like it did before, and there's a lanyard tree right next to the table, and you pick up your badge, you put it on a lanyard, and off you go. Nobody touches it. So, but it's a topic that's coming up over and over, are those things, and Andrea's giving a ton of really good ideas around on that, that respect as well. But organizers are having to plan like that.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say too that, and we're kind of getting to it, which is basically that so many things have changed over time, over this little bit of time. And we remember 9/11, and I've told every single client almost, like, do you remember 9/11? Okay. Do you remember there was no TSA before 9/11? And then after 9/11, 20 years later almost, we still have the TSA, right? So I think we're going to have things that come out of this that are going to be the same for us for events, that they're going to forever be with us because of the fact that we've had this pandemic with us. So we've been talking about that with Mark. We've been talking about things that we're putting together. But as we do that, I am really curious about, from a venue perspective, Kate, what are the things and challenges that you're having or that you're seeing?
It's a lot of fear. So people are scared, as we've all mentioned, about what's going on. So we're trying to figure out ways to combat and kind of assist and ease those fears. So by having increased presence of housekeeping staff to clean all of the surfaces and make sure everything is thoroughly sanitized, by having sanitization stations set up all throughout the venue to allow people to use that little bit of hand sanitizer anytime they have that inkling. Making sure that our staff is wearing gloves and not cross-contaminating anything, and kind of just putting that ease of mind out there that we are doing everything that we can to make sure that you are in a safe and sterile environment, while also still being able to host your event and get that engagement that you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. So what are the things that you kind of see for you, like in the hospitality industry? Like, what questions do you have?
A lot of us, so at Delta, we provide complimentary Wi-Fi throughout the entire hotel for everyone. My question is more geared towards, what does that mean for bandwidth? What do we need to have available for Wi-Fi? Do we need to upgrade our Wi-Fi to allow it to be more accessible for everybody? What's the best way of doing that?
Right. I'll say this. Let me just start. I'm going to give you a very non-technical answer. My non-technical answer is, I think Wi-Fi should be free everywhere at this point as we're starting. Like, I mean, we just need to get all the venues. If there's a venue out there that charges, and there's a million gazillion of them that do, I think you just got to start building this in, because it's going to be a thing that everyone is going to need going forward. Yeah. So that's my non-technical answer, Kate.
Lee probably could agree with that, from that perspective. I know that, from our perspective, we see this being a hybrid, this is going to grow into a hybrid scenario. Nobody's ever going to wake up one morning and not have a virtual backup. That's what happened here. So I think what you're going to see is that blending of a physical event, smaller, more regional, local events, versus these big giant events, combined with the virtual piece. And so with that being said, Lee's the expert here. I don't know that piece of it very well, but I do know that bandwidth really affects an event if it's not really.
So there are really two groups that we're talking about here. One is your in-person audience, those people who may still be actually coming to your event. And it's likely that they are going to be expecting to engage in some of the virtual elements of your event. So, delivery of PDFs of promotional materials, touchless registration, things like that, where they're going to need their devices to be online in order to engage with the content that you're delivering. Hotels are notorious for putting in roadblocks to that. go in, put in your room number, put in a password. Oh, is it caps? Is it lowercase? Oh, and now the security certificate for this site is expired, so it's not going to allow me to connect. Making your Wi-Fi easier to get to by your guests, I think, is a good one. From our perspective, for those people delivering the virtual content, we're not interested in your Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is not reliable enough for broadcast quality audio and video. We're going to be looking for a wired, high-speed internet connection in each room from which we're delivering content. Generally speaking, we want that to be fairly firewall-free. We don't want to have to go through logins and 24-hour expirations and plugging in room numbers and guest last names in order to get on that network. Because when we have a little network blip, we don't want to have a 10-minute process before we're re-engaged with the online audience. So, twofold. The guests need good, easy-to-access Wi-Fi, and the production team needs good, easy-to-access, wireless, reliable, high-speed internet.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good. I know one of the things we're talking about, and we're going to run out of time here, but I did want to just touch on one thing that Tamara and I had a conversation about fairly recently. And she asked about, she said she was talking about the governor's phase 1 and phase 2 and, you know, tone. Tamara, do you mind like talking a little bit about that? Because I love that so much, what you said about that.
Absolutely. So because we're a DMO marketing organization for the Richmond region, we're talking to so many stakeholders, local residents. And one of the things we always have to keep in mind as we keep talking about bringing back tourism, reopening, reactivation, we know that we want to be cheerleaders for bringing back tourism and people going to the restaurants and shopping, but we had to be mindful about the tone of how we communicate that, because people have lost people and they have experienced, perhaps they've lost their jobs, they haven't been able to work. So being able to talk about coming to our events in a space that particularly looks at how we are encouraging them to attend. So just here in our world, we're trying to be very mindful of the tone and how we're communicating to event attendees, you know, moving forward between now and August, once actual physical events start happening.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't have to tell her there was a question for it or anything like that. There is no question for it, but I do think it's something I know that we all need to just be mindful of, compassionate, empathetic, even in our rah, let's open this bad boy up. There are people who've lost loved ones and they've lost jobs and they've lost material possessions that were important to them, or will lose those, or in jeopardy of losing those things. So I think it's just being sensitive. At the same time, we want to, you know, do a big, you know, marching band parade. We also have to just be mindful that this reopening is not a celebration moment either, you know. So just being mindful of that, I think, is just, it's important when we communicate that with tone and emails that go out to attendees ahead of time, or things that just the way that we're communicating, we just have to keep that in mind. And I love that so much, Tamara. So I really want to thank you for bringing that up. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead here just a little bit, and I'm going to talk about a little bit of something that Mark mentioned. He talked about name badges a little bit, but one of the things we talked about was about just safety protocols and that sort of thing. And I do want to touch on that because I do think it's super important. It is the hot topic that everybody cares about. And we were talking about whether or not, whose safety protocols do you follow, right? So whose safety is it a venue's? Is it yours? Is it is it somebody else's? And so what do you guys think? I don't know. I got my own thoughts, but what do you guys think is going to happen with the protocols? I don't know if there's going to be a universal one at any point. So what do you guys think?
I think you can't be too safe. So for the venue, we will have our own set of protocols and plans of what we think is going to be the best procedures. And obviously we're going to advocate for that. We're going to advocate for us serving the team. But if you have, you know, standards and protocols that you want us to implement as well, in addition to.
I just want to trail on that. I think giving people comfort that you've thought about it, just the plan in general is going to make people feel better about coming to an event. So I think to your point, Kate, I think just the plan and being able to say that we're doing all of these things will give the people that want to come. I go to Costco. I look forward to it now with my map, but I feel comfortable because they have a good plan there, right? And I feel like that makes me feel comfortable enough to go in and do what we need to do. I think the same is going to equate to going to an event. If I feel like the plan's really good and it's a good, safe environment, then I might feel more comfortable about going.
I feel the exact same way too, Mark. And I'll tell you this, we have been working really, really hard at our company to figure out what that looks like. Because I think just as much of it is optics as it is actually the things that are happening. So I think for us, and this will be something that I'm sure Stacy implements and Beverly does, and Tamara can tell her friends about it and all of that, which is just guidelines that we have as planners that we're creating for ourselves, our company. We have protocols now for contact tracing. Like in case if somebody were sick at your event, we need to be able to tell the authorities who was in that session, and primarily the attendees. Like, we just want to let you know that there was a person that they were under the weather. If it were a repeat situation of COVID, God forbid, but if it was COVID, they had tested positive, and you sat in a session with them from 11 a.m. to 11:50 a.m. So we're able to tell people if they encountered that person and when it happened. That's one of the big things that we're implementing on just, as a necessary thing that has to happen. Changing dining styles is something that Kate mentioned, no more buffet. And we were talking about coffee service as well. It used to be the coffee bar and the thing. And I was like, I think everybody's going to have a barista now. Like, I think the hotels are going to have to be like pouring coffee and giving it to people or setting it out so people just pick it up, that kind of thing. Business card policies, right? Like, we're going to have a no business card policy. And instead we have to, work with Mark or somebody like Mark and figure out, how do you do that contact free? How do we do a no business card policy? Because we don't want that here. We want to do it electronic and that sort of thing. So go ahead, Mark.
That stuff is easy to do too, right? It's not a difficult thing to accomplish, and it's already out there.
Yep. So I think the big thing is to think about the things that we need to do, and then how do you engage with other people to figure out how to make them happen. As we think about things in our company, we called it, it's so silly, but we call it Operation Black Swan. It's this full guide that we're developing for every single piece of the business, from registration to sessions to parking to floor plan types. What floor plans can you have for just as a measure of protection? Again, it's just also the look of it as well. So I did want to just touch on that before we go. Before we end the session, I do want to give everybody an opportunity to just talk about what they have going on. This is called our plug minute. So plug anything you want, whatever you have going on. We'll start with Beverly first. Beverly, what do you have going on? Tell us everything you want us to know.
Thanks so much for allowing me to be here and ask my billions of questions. So the big thing we have going on in the community is our June 17th to 19th Virginia Women's Veterans Summit goes virtual. So we're excited to bring together federal, statewide partners to connect with our women veterans, provide resources. We're going to have, just like Mark was mentioning the other day, we stretched it out over 3 days so that we can have kind of a good flow with panels, speakers, some virtual exhibit halls and things of that nature. And register on www.dvs.virginia.gov. We would love to have everyone in the community to join us. And if you know a veteran family member, please encourage them to join us. Once again, www.dvs.virginia.gov. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks so much. All right, Kate, what you got?
So as I mentioned earlier, I'm with Delta Hotels in Chesapeake, Virginia. We are a 18,000 square foot event space along with a full service hotel. located centrally right off the interstate in Hampton Roads. We have an expansive menu for your next event, and we are working hard to make sure that all of the safety protocols are covered to make sure that your event is safe and fun for everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. What about you, Mark? What you got going on?
Well, listen, first of all, I know how difficult this is for all of you. I've been on the phone with our clients. It's just been a really trying time. And so, ExpoPass has been around for 4.5 years. We're an technology company. And so we've always, our mission from the beginning was to create a platform that was affordable and scalable for any sized event planner. So you didn't have to go to those really expensive directions to have good technology, and we've been really innovating there, but mostly touching physical events. So we've just we had a virtual platform that was due to roll out at the end of the year, and we have expedited that significantly. So June 8th, we roll out our virtual event piece to our platform. So it'll be an element. And so, from our perspective, we're just trying to help you all when you produce your events. Really great place, where people can feel like it's a virtual experience, but it also feels like you're really close to the event. So that's what's going on with us. And we're, I have to temper my enthusiasm. I told Andrea the other day, I'm on the phone with people that are really scared, their jobs are on jeopardy, things are really, really dicey. And on the flip side, we're over here going, wow, this is a huge opportunity. This is it's opened our eyes to how big of an opportunity, just bringing this element in today. So I think you're going to see a lot of innovation from us and from all kinds of technology people out there they're innovating around this. But we're excited, and anything that I can do to help any of you, by all means, let me know.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. All right, Lee, what you got going on?
Well, so AVP has been an event production company for over 20 years. We were definitely reeling at the beginning of this year when all of a sudden we saw cancellation after cancellation after cancellation of our big in-person events. But it's kind of exciting right now to see how these events have figured out different ways to virtualize. And we think that we can be a great partner for those, from providing great quality audio and video, an event home right here in our studio where we can help you produce all those different pieces and parts, or coming out to any venue, be it a hotel, there at your office. We even have some partnerships with some fun venues around here in Richmond. So lots of different ways we can help you continue to reach your audience, and you can find us at avprva.com anytime.
Oh, that's terrific. Okay, and Stacy.
Yeah, thanks everyone. This has been a lot of fun. I am with ChemTreat, so unless you're looking for industrial water treatment, I will say that we are moving to more virtual events and are definitely looking for, just to learn together and move towards that world. So, but I will say my experience is in corporate event planning, so I am happy to be a resource for anyone who is looking for help and support in conferences and trade shows and things of that nature.
I love it. I love good networking. Tamara, what about you?
So as I've said throughout our presentation and time together, I work for Richmond Region Tourism, which is a destination marketing organization. And for you meeting planners out there, if you've not brought a meeting to the Richmond region, sorry, Kate, we want you to consider Richmond as an opportunity to host your next physical event, or we have fabulous virtual planners like Andrea, whoop, whoop, shout out. But we definitely, our organization is to bring in visitors to the Richmond region. That is my job in community relations. We have an I Am Tourism Ambassador program where we actually train residents about what they can do, what places to visit, places to eat in our destination. And I want to encourage you we're going to launch, which you guys are going to get a little sneak peek of this. Well, actually, I'm telling you now, a new marketing concept as we go post-COVID. It's called Only One RVA. So you guys will hopefully hear some of that messaging out in the marketplace. But please know that Richmond Region Tourism and my organization is here to answer any questions that planners have or residents have in terms of going to safe spaces in our destination. So you can find all that information on visitrichmondva.com.
Richmond, we'll do it one more time.
Visit richmondva.com.
richmondva.com. Wonderful.
Yep. You got
Wonderful.
it.
Thanks so much. Okay, so all about presentation. We are working on a number of virtual conferences and events, graduations as well. We just launched an online store. We have about, I think it's 400 square feet of space in our warehouse that we're getting rid of. Not the space, but the stuff that was in it. It's all gently used event supplies. So we just launched that. We also have downloadable guides. One of the things that Mark alluded to is that All About Presentation put a guide together of its 28 different virtual platforms. And we did a compare and contrast. We did list all the features and that sort of thing, price points for virtual platforms. You can download it for free. If you have a code, and you'll have a code on this video, so just use the code, you can download it for free. And then we also have information about any upcoming events that are open to the public on our site. So be sure to follow us on any of our social platforms. Pick a social platform. It is at All About Presentation, at All About Presentation. And our website is allaboutpresentation.com. And I just wanted to say to all of you at the round table, all the experts, my super friends, Avengers, if you will, event Avengers, thank you all so much for being here today. And I wish you the best of everything. Be well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.